Hello again, my treasured assistants. I trust that you're doing well, but if you're not, I hope today's excursion can help you through in one way or another. In fact, I believe that today's mad hand is just the individual that can lift your spirits. The magical girl of the under, a seeker of the heart, the spontaneous star of sugar, spice, and everything nice. But we'll talk more about her later. Now, I don't possess the ability of time travel, at least not yet, but I have more than enough methods to take you on a journey. So listen to my tale of the long ago. Before I transcended my humanity, I was a child like any other, but with a strong affection for games and anime. I still am, but the majority of my interests were established early on, and from that affection eventually stemmed the desire to create characters of my own, hoping that one day they too would end up on screen, putting people of all ages in awe just as I have been. But at the time, anime was still a niche thing, which meant that many would look at you cross-eyed for mentioning that you were a fan, unless it was Dragon Ball for some reason. But more importantly, resources for it, specifically merchant videos, were incredibly difficult to come by. So if you wanted your fix, you had to navigate foreign shipping websites that were in a language you most likely could neither read nor speak, or had to stay up to ungodly hours on a Saturday night just to catch a series that was often played out of order. But in times of adversity, you either fall by the wayside or make the most of what you have, and I did the latter. Thankfully, I was never really into merch, but I love me some moving pictures, and I desperately wanted to draw in an anime style. By that time, I had already been drawing for quite a while, but they were mostly creatures inspired by Pokémon. I didn't know the first thing about how to draw an actual human, much less doing so in an anime style. That is, until I stumbled upon a series of books known as How to Draw Anime. I would show you a picture, but I couldn't find the one I used when I looked it up. So it was either media lost to time or extremely specific. That aside, every few days or so, I would beg my parents to take me to the local bookstore to buy these art books for me. Eventually they gave in, and I had finally begun my first step into the world I held so dearly. And that brings us to our topic for today, that being the notion of art tutorials. Now, this matter is a bit extensive, and I would like to take my time discussing the intricacies of each component, without having to worry about the length of the video. So, we'll only cover the introduction for now. I don't mean to be a tease, but think about it this way. At least you have something more to look forward to. Moving on. With one of these books from my self-proclaimed master in hand, I was convinced that if I could commit myself to completing every page within it, I would be guaranteed to achieve the same level of skill that I saw before me. So I put pencil to paper as quickly as I could, but after a few attempts at the first page, I was quickly overtaken by both frustration and confusion, asking myself the question, why doesn't my picture look like his? Thinking that it was simply a failure on account of my resource, I looked elsewhere for my fix. Yes, blaming another for my problem without first looking inward was immature of me. This I know, but is to be expected. I was a kid after all. So, I turned to YouTube for guidance, where I eventually found art-centered channels such as Draw with Jacinthe and Sakura, and followed their instructions as I did with the books. But as I'm sure you've already guessed, even with them, the outcome was no different, leading me to fall deeper into frustration. Sometimes the anger was so intense that I would have to take a break from art for a few days before trying again. But during those periods of rest, Sakura's content really stuck out to me, because, different from the rest, he didn't just draw. He also talked about and showed what went into getting good at drawing. Thanks to his insight and growing up, I had finally come to the conclusion that buying a how-to book or following a video would not automatically make me a copy of the person I was trying to emulate. So, for those that are currently dealing with the same struggle, know that it does get better. It's just a matter of taking agency over your mindset and learning at your own pace. But if it ever does become too much to handle, remember to take breaks. I sure have. Now then, forgive the delay, but we can at last talk about the image. Anyways, allow me to introduce Peaches, a mad hand from HR. I'm sure many of you had a reaction of disdain as I said that, and for good reason. Human resources is a joke in your reality, and in truth, the same notion is maintained in mine. I even considered not having one here, but after hearing out the current mad lord of the department, he managed to convince me otherwise. That said, our model is very different from the norm. Rather than having assistants focus on sleuthing non-existent problems, or creating presentations and training focus on matters such as cultural sensitivity and harassment and the like, they have instead been made the lords of odd jobs. So their responsibilities include, but are not limited to, matters such as conflict resolution, rule enforcement, event planning, lost and found, and even cleaning. Thanks to this level of freedom, they are also the largest faction, and individuals such as Peaches had had ample opportunity to flourish. As a result, she cemented herself as the lab's lead therapist. She pretty much does as you'd expect, that being listening to people's inner struggles and responding to them in kind, and then treating them to a song and dance as thanks. But when that isn't enough, she doesn't shy away from prescribing them additional treatment. Or more accurately, she directs them to rapture, and she handles the rest. And there you have it. My body grows heavy, and yet many more remain. But thankfully, this endeavor is not a sprint, but a journey, which means that breaks and detours are more than permissible. I just have to make sure that they don't last for too long. Anyway, many thanks for sticking with me today. Admittedly, it was more of a trip down memory lane, rather than a lesson of sorts. But even so, I hope that you got something out of it, and feel even just a smidge better than when we started. Look forward to what's yet to come. I'll actually educate the next time. So, as always, if you have any questions or predictions about the individual before you, feel free to leave them in the comments below. But for now, I depart, so enjoy and continue to partake